Hello, my name is Rick Scheffing, and I would like to share with you some key moments in my 5-year journey through the Adult Education and Training Program at Colorado State University. As I just indicated, I walked the longer path to reach this point, but the extended time I took to complete the program didn't diminish the impact it has had on me as an educator and as a person. In my statement of purpose to enter the AET program, I called myself the reluctant teacher. I never thought I was destined to become an educator. I was pulled back to the United States from Hungary and out of the embassy environment unwillingly, and was not initially optimistic about my ability to convey what I knew to students. I became an instructor at the Joint Military Attaché School in Washington, D.C. in 2008, and it was only after jumping both feet first into the fray that I realized that teaching was where my heart was. At that time, I had neither experience nor formal training in instructional theory or instructional design methods. I did what I felt was correct when teaching and putting together blocks of instruction. I was encouraged along the way by students, supervisors, mentors, and colleagues, and my love for education has done nothing but grow since my time in Washington. In 2012, I had the opportunity to teach English in Germany. This job combined my love of languages with my passion for teaching. My adventure in language education took off from there. At the end of my statement of purpose, I stated that I hoped the CSU AET program would take an enthusiastic teacher and make him into a dynamic educator. It has certainly done that and more. When I started the AET program, my goals were simple. I wanted an in-depth and well-rounded introduction to educating adults, examining all aspects of the subject from the theoretical to the practical. I wanted to learn as much as I could from fellow practitioners throughout the program, and I wanted to leave the program confident that the knowledge and experience I gained could be applied to whatever aspect of adult education I chose. I had a conversation with an AET faculty member before entering the program and was pleased that the AET program not only covered the basics like adult teaching and learning methods, but also instructional design and research, and most importantly for me, adult education as relates to multicultural and special populations. This last aspect of the program, as well as the instructional design class, fit perfectly into my desire to continue teaching languages, specifically English as a second language. The AET program allowed me to examine teaching language to adult learners, to look at language acquisition through a theoretical lens, and to examine how cultural nuances play a part in the ESL classroom. The AET sentence. I teach my students that sentences are the foundation of communication, and to be a sentence, a group of words must have 3 things: a subject, a verb, and the group of words must be a complete thought. There shouldn't be any questions or incomplete ideas after reading it. I consider my completion of the AET program and my reflection about my experiences to be the complete thought part of my sentence. Of course, there will always be continued inquiry as education is an ever-changing and dynamic field, but completing my studies at CSU is the foundation of my communication with learning and learners. Every sentence has an actor, called the subject, which is the beginning and foundation of the sentence. I consider our examination of Dewey's Experience in Education and Malcolm Knowles' approach to self-directed learning in EDAE 520 to be the foundation and subject of my AET sentence. Knowles' idea that adults have an intrinsic motivation for learning, are independent learners, and have valuable experiences waiting to be tapped is directly applicable to second language learners. Experience has proven that my English language learners have a strong desire to better their ability to communicate, are motivated by personal or professional needs, and they certainly come to class with a wealth of life experience. Recognizing these fundamental SDL ideas, I am now better able to diagnose learner needs, formulate concrete goals and objectives, identify the proper language learning resources and learning strategies, and implement and evaluate my lesson plans. Knowles' approach dovetails also with Dewey's view that learning is a continuous process of reconstruction of experience and can be satisfied only as the educator views every present experience as a moving force in influencing what future experiences will be. My learners rely heavily on their first language, or L1, and attempt to relate every new concept learned to something similar in their native language. Understanding Dewey and this basic tenet of adult learning theory has made me more sensitive to the language acquisition process and has significantly altered my instructional methods and teaching approach. I now encourage usage of L1 in the classroom whenever possible, even at the higher levels, and have made it a point to learn more about the languages of the students I'm teaching. Chinese and Arabic, for example, have no perfect tenses, so this concept is difficult for learners from those areas. Spanish speakers begin sentences with a verb, and the subject is understood based on the verb conjugation. This isn't the same in English. Understanding these types of factors gives me a better understanding of why certain mistakes are occurring and focuses my research on strategies to correct these errors and facilitate understanding. The second required item for a group of words to be a sentence is it must have a verb or an action. The verb is a critical and complex part of the sentence that denotes time and manner. The verb in my AET learning process was EDAE 624. Understanding learning theory is complex, yet critical in understanding how adults learn. In 624, we explored the different learning theories such as behaviorism, humanism, cognitivism, social cognitive theory, and constructivism. I discovered during my reflection for my application paper in that class that language teaching and learning is multidimensional and encompasses several learning theories. During my analysis of a lesson I presented to a group of language learners from Mexico at the University of Northern Colorado, I noted a behaviorist approach during the vocabulary familiarization part of the lesson, a humanist approach during the follow-on discussion, and a combination of the two theories during the application phase of the lesson. The dynamic nature of the ESL classroom and the multicultural nuances of second language learners demand that ESL instructors be flexible and creative and not adhere to a single teaching theory or method. In 624, we also explored the different intelligences proposed by Gardner, Sternberg, and Goleman. Examining Gardner's 7 intelligences opened my eyes to the variety of potential capacities my students could display and the different learning needs they may have. This knowledge pushed me to reflect on my teaching methods and how they best could serve the diversity of an ESL classroom. I made it a point to include collaborative learning exercises such as working with partners and in groups to maximize language practice and assimilation. Sternberg's idea of practical intelligence regarding how we deal with everyday experiences in real-world situations is an idea I always consider when designing my language lessons. My students take language classes to improve their English to use either in an academic environment or in daily encounters with native speakers. My lessons include important topics such as American idioms and slang. Idioms and slang are applicable, relevant, and practical when interacting with native English speakers, and their proper use and understanding are a key aspect of language proficiency. Additionally, languages and communication are not sterile in nature, and learning and communicating in a second language is an emotional endeavor. Goleman's emotional intelligence theory suggests that success in daily life is directly related to how one understands and employs emotions. Fear of making mistakes, mispronouncing words, and using wrong verb tense are emotional mountains that second language learners must conquer. Overcoming this fear and becoming more proficient through practice is something that I strongly encourage with my learners and preach to every class I have. Most sentences include other elements that expand upon the subject and the verb, giving the sentence more depth and substance. Adjectives, adverbs, direct objects, and indirect objects are just a few of these grammatical structures that animate a sentence. I truly felt like EDAE 639, Instructional Design, did exactly that for me. 639 took the theories and topics that were covered in the previous semesters and breathed life into them. The course was designed so that each step in the instructional design process was reviewed in class and then executed. I was fortunate that my instructional design project was based on a real need in the intensive English program at the University of Northern Colorado. The UNC IEP provides international students with English language instruction for academic purposes, to prepare students for academics at an American university, to provide ongoing language support in the form of language tutors, and to increase international students' understanding of intercultural communication. The IEP has been successful in the first 2 items in its mission statement, but identified a need for a program of instruction to help facilitate the understanding of intercultural communication piece. This training gap became the catalyst for my development of Breaking the Code, Culture, Communication, and Academic Acculturation for International Students at UNC, a 16-week program of instruction designed to assist UNC international students in acculturating to American social and academic environments. I conducted a needs assessment of the issue to determine if a training event was the correct course of action. I produced an assessment of the audience, a content outline including specific goals and outcomes, an assessment plan, and a program evaluation plan. Throughout the process, I reflected on how best to satisfy the training requirement in that environment, and I used pertinent instructional design models covered in 639. This was the first time I was able to apply the material covered to produce a product. The class was inspiring and really motivated me. I continue to apply IED concepts such as writing goals and outcomes and learner assessments in my current instructional role. Every language is culturally based, so the choice of words in a sentence paints a picture in the listener's mind of the ideas the speaker is trying to convey. Perception and understanding of the message transmitted also depend on the background of the recipient. The Multicultural and Special Populations class added a significant cultural awareness to my AET sentence. I honestly dreaded this class and deliberately chose it as my second to the last course in the program. I had been beaten over the head with so-called annual diversity training in the military and wasn't looking forward to another dose of this subject. I was pleasantly surprised, however, by the material covered in EDAE 651. I learned a great deal through the interactions with my cohort. Like others in the program, I was uncomfortable the entire 16 weeks of the course, but I knew that the discussions we were having were important, and the new self-awareness I was experiencing was necessary for me to grow as a professional and as an ESL educator. Being sensitive to the biases one carries into the classroom is critical when attempting to establish a safe environment for learning to occur. I've spent most of my adult life living, working, and interacting with people from different cultural backgrounds, both domestically and abroad. EDAE 651 took my awareness in a different direction. It allowed me to look inward at myself so that I could be a better person and be able to better understand my students' needs and challenges. I have worked and am currently working as an educational practitioner, so I have approached everything I've learned in AET from an application standpoint. Can I use this in the classroom now? How can this help me to be a more effective teacher? In some cases, this attitude has been a hindrance and has driven me to question my choice of programs. At other times, I've found what I've learned at CSU to be invigorating and inspiring. It has been a 5-year roller coaster ride. Nearing the end of the journey, however, I now understand the structure of the program and how it builds upon itself. I understand that a firm theoretical foundation is necessary before the application phase can occur. To fully comprehend the choice of words and clauses that make up a sentence, one must have a solid grasp of grammar and structure. The AET program has challenged me technologically, theoretically, personally, and professionally, and I've come away a better version of myself. I feel I have firmer understanding of my adult students, how they learn, the cultural challenges we both face, and how best to guide them in their desire to better themselves and their English language competency. My future is in flux. My professional development plan was a trio of options. I plan to continue teaching English as a second language at an institution of higher learning here in Northern Colorado. I enjoy it very much, and the passion the students have to improve their English and improve their lives is infectious. I learn as much from them as they do from me. I also have the opportunity in the fall of 2019 to begin teaching German at the new Severance High School in Severance, Colorado. Teaching foreign language has always been a dream of mine, and I'm looking forward to this new challenge. I'm nervous about teaching high school, but I think the experience will be a positive one. Throughout all these events, I plan to stay connected to the field of adult education. I would very much like to collaborate with other adult educators through the professional organizations and networking and maintain contact with my fellow AET students and professors. It has been a long road to get here. I would like to thank the faculty of the AET program for their tolerance and patience. The Russians have a term for people like me. I'm a pachimuchka, which means a person who always asks why. I thank you for always allowing me to ask why and taking the time to walk me through the answer. I would especially like to thank Tobin Lopes for his guidance, patience, and assistance throughout my time in the program. I don't think I would have made it through without Tobin's support. Finally, I would like to thank my fellow students. Your varying perspectives and willingness to share your experiences have been invaluable in my learning. Thank you for your generosity.